Hey, my name is Ben. Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to be adding some accent lights to the outside of my house. Specifically, I'm working on adding some lights that shine upwards into the peak and basically to complement the existing accent lights which I already added. I have some down lights right along the side of the house. I have a recessed light right here and another one down on the end, and that kind of goes all the way around the house. So we're going to be adding these up lights to add a little bit more depth to the accent lighting that is currently installed. So we're going to go through that process. I'll show you exactly what you need and exactly how to do it. Today's video is sponsored by Thrunite. Don't look at each other, okay? It's a little bit too bright for that. This thing has a crazy output of 3,350 lumens, and I'm going to show you what that can do in just 1 second. But I'm not going to talk a lot about the light here in the beginning of the video. I'll put more details at the very end, so stay tuned if you want to learn more about this particular light. Okay, so here's the light. We're going to take this little piece of cardboard, set it on top right there, and then double click to put it into turbo mode. Just like that. Oh, don't look at it, honey, it's too bright. And you'll see what happens here in just a few seconds. You guys see that? It legit starts to smoke. It's insane. I don't think it would actually start on fire. I don't really like leaving it on there because I don't want to damage the light. Oh, look at that. It's burning all the way through it. It burned it completely. So that just proves to you guys this thing... It smells smoky? Yeah. Okay. I believe that it is truly 3,000 lumen. This lens is actually made out of glass. Here's a Sawzall blade. If I take that and just scrape on the lens, you'll see right there that it's not scratching it at all. This is a glass lens in here, so obviously if it was plastic it would probably melt down. So check out the link right at the top of the description to see the details on this thing, but suffice it to say, if you do not have a high quality headlamp, this headlamp is definitely worth your consideration. So obviously there's a variety of options available for adding an external accent light. And I actually had originally ordered some of these off of eBay. And some commenters, and we just kind of looking at this is kind of a cheap Chinese fixture, and it's just doesn't look like it's really all that official. It might be certified by UL. It has like the CE sticker on it somewhere. Oh, right there. See that CE sticker? But I don't really trust these things to last a long time, and I don't want to have to be doing this a lot. So the method we're going to take is installing basically a socket on this weatherproof box. So we have this metal weatherproof box and a cover with multiple angles options that can mount just like that. And this should give us really good flexibility, not only for being able to configure which direction this is pointing. Obviously, this has got kind of a hinge on it where we can change the angle that this is shining. But we can also just replace the bulbs in the future, and they also sell these gaskets separately. So long term, I think this is going to be a much better way to go. When we do need to replace something, we'll just be replacing a bulb and that's it, rather than replacing the entire fixture. So, but if some of you know of a really good fixture or a better option than what I have here, be sure to put it down in the comments below. Always check the comments section because really smart people say some really great things down there. Also some not so great things, but all right. So to conclude what we have here, obviously the box, this multi-angle cover, the light itself, and we could even mount multiple lights on this if we wanted to, but I just need one for what I'm doing. Then I have some of this duct seal, which is just kind of a squishy substance. You'll see what I use that for later on, but basically to seal the hole that we make in the side of the house. And then of course the bulb that we use. Technically this is designed for a PAR38 bulb, but we can obviously put multiple different options. I found these little bulbs that are designed to be in a wet location, and they seal against this gasket really nicely. So I also wanted something really minimal looking, so I'll link to these in the description if I can find those exact ones. And of course you'll need a few various tools, including a wire stripper, preferably made in the USA. Now the cable that we have coming through the side of the house is this UFB cable. This is weather resistant. In fact, this stuff is even rated to where as long as it's above a certain height so that it's not subject to physical damage, this stuff could be exposed directly to sunlight, or it could be buried. So this stuff is really tough and resilient and is required for any time that you are running wires outside. Even if I was running a wire and a piece of conduit coming across the side of the house somewhere, it would have to be this stuff. I would not be able to use your standard Romex. Now there is some debate about whether or not you can run standard Romex straight out the side of the house and into a box, and if that is acceptable or not. And honestly, I think that it is acceptable. So with this wire coming out through the side of the house and terminating directly inside of a box, I think that's perfectly fine. So I think we could get away with using regular Romex in this situation, but I'm still gonna just go ahead and use this UFB sun resistant 14-2 cable just to be extra safe, because we are, some moisture will come in contact with this, but let me know, what is your opinion, electricians out there? Hit this poll right up here. Is it acceptable to run regular Romex straight out and into the box, or do you think that this UFB type wire is required? We're gonna go with UFB because then we know for sure that we're good to go, but let me know what you guys think. And right here's the junction box where that wire feeds from. So we have this UFB cable that's going from our junction box out to where our accent light will be located. So that was already planned ahead of time. Obviously, if you needed to run your wire from a different box, you would go ahead and do so. And technically you don't need it to be in conduit going out to that outside box. This piece of pipe, actually it's just a random piece of PEX, and I put that in there just for the sake of having a sleeve, but we don't even need conduit coming out to here. This could just be a hole drilled right in the side of the house. So if you don't have a sleeve or something, that's perfectly fine. Drill your hole, just make sure that you clean off any sharp edges, especially if you're coming through any sort of metal siding. Now, depending on what type of circuit you're adding these accent lights to, you'll either most likely be using 12 gauge wire on a 20 amp circuit or 14 gauge wire on a 15 amp circuit, which that's what we have here today. Now, since this circuit is going to be serving this outlet, which is on the outside of the building, it will need to be GFCI protected. So this circuit that I'm adding this to and my accent lights that are already existing are on a GFCI circuit. And it's actually a dual function GFCI AFCI, because usually you can get those dual function circuit breakers for about the same price as a GFCI alone. Real quick, if you're new here, please take a second and hit that subscribe button right down below this video and hit the bell to turn on notifications. About 90% of the views on my channel come from people who are not subscribed to the channel. So if these videos are helpful to you, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. Really appreciate it a whole bunch. Before we put our box on here, it's just kind of handy to go ahead and strip the wire first, especially with this UF stuff, because this stuff is a pain to work with. So we're just going to score down the center where our bare cable is, and I'm going to try not to cut towards myself. See there? I don't think I damaged the jacket there, but you just got to take it slow when you're working on this. Now sometimes you can actually cut all the way through like that, and then we'll go ahead and just peel it back, running our blade towards the center where the bare copper wire is, and there we have it. And then we will inspect our sheath. So right here at the end, we're going to start our score, and usually you can get this out and then peel it out like this. All right, now we've got them started. Now we'll go ahead and just peel these wires out like that. This is not too bad. on 14 gauge wire like we're working with here today, but when you're working with some of the larger UF cables, it can be really nasty getting it stripped back. So I think we successfully did this without nicking the cable, but if I did nick the cable, I'd either have to repair it or just pull it out, cut it off, and try again. But the insulation on both of these insulated conductors looks great. All right, let's go ahead and install the box now. So technically we can mount this box using these little metal brackets that go on the outer edges of the box, but you can also punch out these two spots right here. It actually doesn't say anything about this in the instructions, but if you look at how this is molded, you can tap these two spots right here and it should pop out so that we can just use a couple of screws right in the back of the box. So I'm gonna go ahead and just try that, and I think that these will just pop right out for us. Oh yeah. Yeah, they came right out. Alright, now we can just run a couple of screws straight through the back of the box, and that'll be more secure than using those little tabs. Now, to clamp the wire into the back of the box, we're going to use one of these standard clamps. And go ahead and just take the lock nut off of it, and then we're going to install it in the opposite direction that you would typically see them. Usually you would see a clamp installed in this orientation, but we're going to just go ahead and install it from the inside. It's fairly common to see this done. Whether or not all inspectors will be happy with it, I guess it's a question you'll have to ask the inspector. You can let me know if you think this is a good idea or a bad idea in the comments down below. But we're just going to put that like that, and we should be able to slide our wire right through the back of the box, and then we'll have to use a little right angle tool in order to tighten these screws down. Obviously that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but this way we will comply with clamping the wire in position just like we're supposed to. So here's our box, ready to go. We'll go ahead and slide that over the wires, and it will mount right on the side of the house here, just about like that. We'll pull this cable through just enough so that we have about a 1/4 inch or so of undamaged sheathing inside of the box. And then if you're OCD like me, holy cow, did you see that? It was already level. But if you're OCD like me, make sure that you level the box so you can sleep at night. Alright, there it is. That is super solid. We've got our clamp, our cable coming through, so we're ready to tighten down our clamp here. So I'll get a little right angle tool in there and do that. This is the perfect fit for this little right angle tool here. Whenever you're clamping these things down, you really just want to tighten them down far enough so that the cable can't move in and out, and it's just held in place nicely. You don't really want to squish the wires very much in this connector. That feels good, just like that. The kit comes with these little plugs for the holes that you end up not using, so we're going to go ahead and put those in on either side of the box. And those tighten in place just using a regular flathead screwdriver. Or the world's best pocket knife, if you forgot to tighten the one facing the house. Pick one of these things up, it's super fantastic. I'll link it in the description. Haha. Alright, let's do this. Now I was going to use this duct seal on that opening before I put this box on there, but now the box is already on there and I'm not going to take it back off, but using some of this and squishing it into that hole would have been a really good idea. Actually, should I just do it? Okay, fine, I'll just do it. This is... So we're going to take our box back off here for just a minute, and then this duct seal is really nice stuff just to squish into that opening coming through the side of the house, and that's going to prevent air infiltration and bugs and critters and all that kind of stuff from getting into the house. So there we go, sealed up, and now we'll put our wires back through. So since this is a metal box, we have to ground the box directly on this green screw right here. So we've made a couple of pigtails using 14 gauge green insulated wire. You could also use just regular bare 14 gauge wire if you wanted to, assuming you're working on a 15 amp circuit like I am. but we're going to go with this insulated stuff since we have it available. So we're going to be attaching one pigtail to this ground screw right there, and then the rest of the assembly here is our cover. And the cover actually comes with a ground terminal option right there, where you could connect a ground wire there. Now, I do not think that we need to do that. This is a metal cover, and this metal fixture is going to be threading into here, and this also has a ground screw. So we're going to be attaching our second pigtail to this actual light fixture, and that's going to be grounded to this cover through just the metal body of the light, and then it will also, this cover will also be grounded to the box using the metal screws that are included, which will be cinching this cover up to here. So I'm not exactly sure why they have the option of connecting the ground screw to this actual metal cover. I'm sure there's an application for that. You guys can comment down below and let me know what that would be. But that's how we're going to do it. So we'll go ahead and get this thing hooked up. So right here is our second pigtail connection on the light itself. To make this absolutely watertight, we want to use some sealant on these threads right here. Right now I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to assemble it like this, and I think it's going to be just fine. But just wanted to mention it in case you did want to add some sealant to your assembly. So now we can pigtail all three of our ground wires together, and to do that we're just going to use a standard good old-fashioned wire nut, and we're not going to pre-twist them. They're going to be just fine. So there's our ground, and now our neutral and our hot wires are going to be our white and our black. Black is hot, white is neutral. Go ahead and just strip those back. 14 gauge. It's best to extend your stranded wire just a tiny bit further than the solid wire, and you will have better luck then with your connection. Now this is one situation where it actually matters a little bit with the direction of the wire nuts. We want them to end up in the box with the wire nuts pointing up, so any moisture that gets in the wire nuts will drain out, rather than if it was down like this. Moisture can get in there, and you see them sometimes where the inside of that wire nut is just totally rusted out because it was not able to dry out properly. So we'll roll these around in such a way. I think, how are we going to do this? Just like that. So you can see all of the wire nuts are pointed up, so we should be good to go with that. Oh, you know what we forgot? Stink. You got to make sure you put your wires through the gasket before you connect your wires. Otherwise, you have to cut the gasket, which we're not going to do that. We're gonna be proper. We're gonna pull them out. I'm gonna disconnect them all, and then we'll put our. I don't want to do this. It's super annoying. Okay. All right, gasket's going on. Alright, we're going to rotate this guy into place. There she be. Alright, I'll grab our mounting screws. Alright, we've got our gasket evenly spaced all the way around here, so we can just cinch down these screws a little bit. And there we go. And then there's also a couple of covers or plugs that go in these unused holes here. I've got company. Kind of bugs me that that's not straight there, but I'm gonna have to live with it. Okay, this light here, now we can adjust our angle the way we want it to be, which I want it to be something like that. Right here is that little bitty light bulb that I showed you guys earlier, and this thing is so perfect because basically what we're creating is a nice little spotlight that is super minimal looking, and obviously we'll have replaceable bulbs. So I like to put the bulb in first, and then we just peel this gasket over the top of the light. Just like that. And then we just use this lock nut here at the base of the light. We can obviously adjust this angle anywhere like this, and obviously anything like this. And then once we get the angle that we like, we just tighten it into position. Now for any materials or supplies needed for this particular project, just make sure that you check the description right underneath this video, and I'll try to link all the different components that were involved in this particular project. So I got all the accent lights installed, as you guys saw that picture that I put up, but there's one there, and then I added one right here, and that's shining up onto this sunburst and the chimney, and so that's a little bit brighter light bulb that I installed in there. It's more of a spotlight. I guess these other ones are technically more of like floodlights, I guess. And then obviously I have the same thing going on over on this end of the house. So, and then they're also all tied to the motion sensor. So over there's a motion sensor switch, and when that goes off, it turns on all the lights at the same time. If you guys would like to see how that is wired, let me know down in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video explaining how to integrate your accent lights into your motion sensor if you guys are interested in doing something like that. So I hope this video helps you out. If it earned your subscription, please hit that subscribe button right down below this video and hit the bell to turn on notifications. So for all of the subsequent lights that I had to finish on the front of the house there, I actually used this light right here. This is a really nice headlamp. I've just really appreciated having this for many different work situations. And in order to recharge it, it just has this little door here, this gasket, and we flip that open and it's micro USB, which you probably have a bunch of micro USB cables laying around from your phones from days gone by, but that works really well to recharge it. And it gives you a charge indicator on the end of it. It turns red while it's charging, and I think it's blue when it's finished, something like that. And then this is one really large lithium ion cell that powers this thing. So it is legit, and the runtime on this thing is really fantastic. Now these things have multiple modes as far as the different brightness options that they have. So if we, sorry, is it falling down? So if I press and hold it, it goes into firefly mode, which is this really low lumen output mode where you can use it in lower lighting settings. Where? Do you want me to put yours on firefly? Yeah. Okay. There's firefly mode for you. Really low lumen output. And then if we want to cycle through the different lumen options, here, I'm going to show you the different options, okay? I don't want firefly. You don't want firefly? Okay. So here's the different options. If I press it again, it shuts it off. And then if I press it once, it turns it into normal mode. And if I press and hold it, it cycles through the different brightness options. And it has an SOS mode, which is what this mode is right here. And then obviously it has a dimmer mode that will last longer as well. Real quick, we'll run through what all is included with the TH30. It obviously includes the headband, as well as an extra grommet for the headband should the original fail. And then it has extra gaskets, both for the USB port as well as the O-ring for keeping the actual flashlight water resistant. And then it also has a clip should you want to use the light separately from the headband. Right here are all the technical parameters should you guys want to look at the exact details, but right here is that turbo mode, 3,350 lumens, then eventually down to 1,050 lumens as the battery drains, and it also has thermal limitations to protect the light from basically cooking itself. And then there's the high mode of 1,275 lumens, medium 352, medium low 130, low 25, and it gives you also the times for how long those will run. So that low mode of 25 lumens will run for 60 hours, or firefly mode will run for 32 days. That would be really fun to test. We should test that. Now when you turn the light on, there will be an indicator on the end of the light that changes colors, and right here we can see the legend for how that works. If the battery is at 21 to 100%, it'll be blue, just like it is right now. And then from 11 to 20%, it'll be red, and then 1 to 10%, it'll be flashing red, and then obviously it'll be off when it's totally dead. And in firefly mode, the indicator is off. So if we put this into firefly mode by pressing and holding, like that, the indicator is off, which is nice because you don't want that extra distracting light if you're trying to direct the very specific task lighting with that firefly mode. So I'll put a link in the description to this particular headlight combination. The value that you're getting for this light is crazy. I think that this thing is totally worth the investment. To have one of these things in your just toolbox for being able to do projects where you just need some light mounted on your head, this is definitely the light to buy. Now this here is the TI3V2, and this is a really miniature flashlight. It uses one AAA battery, and it has several brightness output options. So as you tighten it down, it turns on into firefly mode, loosen and tighten again, and it goes into the medium, and finally into the brightest mode. And you can go, if you cycle through, it has a strobe mode, which is kind of sweet. So guys, check all this out in the description. If you guys do make a purchase, a small bit will support the channel, and I really would appreciate that a whole bunch. Thanks a ton for watching, and if you guys want to keep learning a few different things with me about electrical and other DIY type topics, click on one of these videos right here on the screen, and we'll see you over there in just a few seconds. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Grandpa showed up cutting up a cedar tree.